Morning, rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. You guys all here? Great. Good to see everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in. Well, we got a lot to talk about today. First of all, you might be wondering, why are you in the studio? Well, why aren't you in the studio? Well, don't worry, studio's fine. It's just that they needed it a little bit earlier than usual today. And I didn't want to end the show early, right? Because I love you guys so much. I know, right? Now, you didn't want me to end this show 30 minutes early. No, that's fine. Go in the bar, freeze my little boobies off, and do a whole 2-hour show for my friends. You deserve it. Thank you so much for joining us live, nice and early. Make sure you click that like button to show your support. People like Quest Fanning have already started donating them Rumble Rants. Quest, thank you. You definitely want to unlock today's bonus content for sure, because I'll tell you what. After these messages, we ride back. You get a little something special, a little extra today. And especially Quest, because I know he wanted this for the bonus content. So you want to get to unlocking. $50 raised by the end of the show in either Rumble Rants or at purchases at apforlibertyshop.com. Go toward unlocking that mini documentary today. We always like to do little shows, little mini documentary shows to kind of educate, titillate, edumacate. Some really good words that rhymes with that. Steffi says, Austin looks so young and sexy today. I think you and I know why I'm glowing this morning, Mrs. Peterson. All the homos out there.
How dare you?
It's the Wake Up America show. We're going to have a good time today, and we're going to have a great guest. Camellia Peterson joins us live at 8 o'clock. Speaking of Breeden, Jean Breeden 8 joining us this morning. How you doing, Jean? Billie Jean was not my lover. Her last name said Breeden, but don't get confused, because my wife would be the lose. Quantum Kitty, what is up? $50 right away. Kill. You guys want to see that bonus content? All right. She says, let's have that mini doc request. You guys already unlocked it. You earned it. We are going to talk about the news today. Ronna McDaniel Romney fired from NBC. Wah, wah. I know, I'm not supposed to enjoy it, but listen, it's a German bar I'm in, and it's a lot of Schadenfreude, so we get to enjoy it here. I need to go get like a glass of beer while we play the bonus content this morning. Let's start the morning off straight. What do you say? I didn't drink on St. Patrick's Day, so we'll make it today. Just kidding. The Wake Up America show is also going to talk to you today about the trial of P. Diddy Combs. Reading some of the allegations against Sean Puffy Combs last night just made me want to go home again. I really hate seeing people whose music or art that I enjoyed in my life go down in such a big bad way. And maybe it's all allegations at this point. It's all hearsay at this point. We just
No, God! No, God, please!
When you go back and you read some of the things that he was saying back in the day, like people should have known. But when I was growing up, I wasn't as aware of pedowood as I am today. Right now that the Jeffrey Epstein saga has gone, become a part of our national zeitgeist, I just hate that I look back on so much of the music and art and films that I enjoyed, and they're just so tainted. I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's kind of like a 9/11. Well, you know what? I would compare it to 9/11, not in the scale of like a loss of life necessarily, but the loss of innocence. I would compare like the exposure of the licentiousness of Hollywood, which honestly we should have never been really so naive at all. I was watching a video the other day of little Shirley Temple, and honestly, I felt horrible when I was listening to her as an adult explain some of the things that happened to her when she worked for Metro Goldwyn Mayer as a little girl. It's always been there. And, I'm naive, and maybe you knew the whole time about what this lifestyle was like, but I tell you, I don't like seeing and reading stories like these. And I don't, I think I feel avoidance towards it. Well, probably like the average American does. These aren't conversations you can have over the dinner table, right? You can't bring up to your mom, who probably loved listening to, his music like I did growing up. You can't say, "Hey, mom, you want to talk about like what Justin Bieber and Sean P. Diddy Combs did?" Right? These aren't the conversations that you're having over the dinner table. So, they are conversations we can barely have here on social media. Thank God we're streaming on Rumble and X this morning. Yes, where we have a little bit of free speech, and we're on some other social networks as well that don't have free speech. And I imagine they'll probably demonetize us like they love to do. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. You guys have already unlocked the bonus content. You're beautiful, you're amazing, you're sexy, you're gorgeous. I love you all. Yes, and we are going to play the bonus content for you. Enjoy the bonus content for you today that I've cooked up with a little special treat at the beginning, and we'll be right back.
Well, I'm just here singing, buying time with a tune you'll see, so words don't get lost in the digital sea. It's a little old break, just a short delay. Hang on, the video's on its way. Yeehaw! Just stalling for time, you see?
Want an exciting action thriller about government spying, murder, and cover-ups? Enemy of the State is a film that conspiracy-loving libertarians would definitely enjoy. Enemy of the State combines an Orwellian theme, a powerful cast that features Gene Hackman, and marks one of Will Smith's gravest film choices, posing the question that if one were come into evidence of the murder of a government official, what could possibly go wrong? Attorney Robert Dean stumbles upon evidence of a government cover-up, sending him on a desperate run to save himself and his family. Dean's only hope lies with Brill, a secretive figure who might hold the key to unraveling the mystery. The film excels in depicting a world of pervasive surveillance, using advanced technology from bugs to CCTV to craft a believably intrusive scenario. Its success is grounded in the simplicity and believability of its surveillance tactics, weaving them into an engaging plot. Tons of action throughout keeps the story moving as we learn more about what governments will do to keep their secrets and their budgets flowing. The ensemble of high-profile actors, including Gene Hackman, Jon Voight, and Stuart Wilson, enhances the story with their compelling performances. The dynamic between Hackman and Smith stands out, showcasing a brilliant on-screen chemistry that evolves from mutual dislike to collaboration. This film showcases Will Smith's transition from comedic roles to serious acting, although his performance occasionally slips back into familiar territory. Smith's attempt to mix humor with his serious role sometimes undercuts the credibility of his character as a sharp attorney. Despite its flaws, Enemy of the State is a smartly packaged action movie that tackles the concept of government surveillance with a thought-provoking angle. It's a film that not only entertains but also stimulates contemplation about privacy and government power, making it a must-watch for conspiracy enthusiasts. In conclusion, Enemy of the State's blend of suspense, technology, and a stellar cast offers a thrilling ride through the implications of a surveillance society. It's highly recommended for libertarians that want a little fun with a dose of paranoia alongside your popcorn.
There you go. Welcome back. So, have you ever seen the movie Enemy of the State? Came out in like 1998, before I got all paranoid and into Ron Paul, before 9/11. And if you're looking for a great movie, if you're a big conspiracy buff, then Enemy of the State is a good one, especially for libertarians. So this week, AP, do you hear that wonder voice over that ape? Do you hear that wonder voiceover that AP is doing? That's what I do. I mean, fan version. Enema of the State. Quantum Kitty, she's seen it. She knows what it's all about. But if you haven't seen Enemy of the State, starring Will Smith and Gene Hackman, highly recommend it. It's a great thriller, action-packed, lots of fun. Jerry Bruckheimer and I think it's Todd King was the director. A lot of fun, it's for conspiracy paranoiacs like us libertarians. So check it out this weekend if you haven't watched it. Grab some popcorn. It's a thriller. Highly recommend. Have you guys been enjoying the bonus content? We have unlocked every single piece of bonus content every single day since we started this program about a month and a half ago. It's been an unbelievable success, and I just can't say thank you enough to everybody who's supported the program. When do you get a load of what Steffi and I are cooking up for you next? Some of you saw yesterday on X.com the little post that Steffi and I made about some of the fresh content that's coming up. She posted it yesterday, and people with their little dirty minds people with a little sick and nasty mind. She goes, Austin got me a toy to play with. I can't wait to show you guys what I'm going to do with it. And everybody was like making their little dirty jokes, and I was just like,
How dare you?
my little Greta Thunberg come out. I'm like, we're making content, everybody. Just get your minds out of the gutter. We've got some great content for you today, and we've got some great guests. So make sure you stick around for 8 a.m. when Camelia Peterson joins us. And I am in the bar this morning instead of the studio, not because the studio's broken, but because I did not want to give you guys a shorter show today. I wanted to give you the full 2 hours, and they needed the studio at 9 a.m. So I wanted to make sure I could give you the best content I could, the best way I could. Let's go ahead and talk about the news, guys. What do you say? Ronna McDaniel Romney is out at at NBC 4 days. Womp womp. That's the big story today. We're going to talk about that. And In Jam 77, I see over there on Rumble Chat. What's up, In Jam? I just want to let you know, I saw you over on Twitter yesterday, or at least somebody's name was In Jam, but I didn't follow him because I didn't know if it was you. So if it is you, just hit me up on X later and I'll give you a little follow, okay? Let's hear, before we get to the Ron McDaniel Romney story, I like to call it Romney, let's take a look at some of the national news that's happening here. Let's get some fresh polling and hear what's happening not only in the world of politics, but the economy as well.
We have brand new Fox News polls on the current state of the presidential election in a hypothetical 5-way ballot test, which includes Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Cornel West,
hypothetical 5-way with RFK Jr. I know that a lot of
Jill
people like
Stein,
that.
all candidates. Former President Donald Trump is narrowly favored over President Biden with a 5-point edge. That 5-point difference also carries over to our head-to-head matchup, man-to-man. And on their favorable ratings, independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. tops Trump and Biden with 47%, 45%, and 39%.
Yeah, it's because they don't know him. Now, you guys know tomorrow's Freedom Family Friday, and typically we have just Steffi and Justin on the show with me, but we are going to have a special guest tomorrow. I'm going to kind of break the mold, and he's a gentleman who's going to talk. He's from the Palm Beach Institute in Florida, and he's going to talk to us tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. Central a little bit about RFK Jr.'s vice presidential pick. I've got some details on her today, but I'm going to go into more detail tomorrow with a special guest, so make sure you come back and join us tomorrow at that one. I just thought these polls were interesting because it's showing the Biden-Trump split with Kennedy Jr. at 12%. There was a lot of discussion about whether or not Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would take more from Biden or Trump, but this poll appears to show that RFK would take more from Biden, which makes a lot of sense, especially considering his VP pick. I mean, if Kennedy really wanted to pull equally from both sides, he probably would have picked a less lefty VP candidate, but he needed the money. And it was kind of like what when I ran for president in 2016 against Gary Johnson, there was a lot of talk about what Bill Weld would bring to the table as VP. And of course, the number one thing that they thought Bill Weld would bring is not just credibility, but money. And the expectation was that if Bill Weld were to get on the ticket, that he, with his relationship with Mitt Romney, would be able to fundraise extensively for Gary Johnson and Bill Weld. Well, the problem with that was that Mitt Romney thought that Gary Johnson was kind of a silly little pothead, and so Bill Weld wasn't able to raise the kind of money from Mitt Romney that they really wanted. They raised, I think, $12 million, which was pretty significant for the Libertarian Party. But in terms of what Romney would have done if Bill Weld had been at the top of the ticket, Mitt Romney said so, then they would have certainly funded the LP campaign much more so. So a lot of the neocon types were taking a look at the presidential campaign. It's funny, I was actually having a conversation with Bill Kristol, of all people, when I was at an event in Los Angeles. I know, arch neocon. But he was actually very interested in my presidential campaign, and not because he agreed with me on foreign policy so much, but because he saw that I wasn't kind of like a nutbag or an isolationist when it came to foreign policy, which, take that for what you will. But I guess they didn't care for Gary Johnson as much. So I wonder if I had been the 2016 LP presidential candidate, if I would have gotten Mitt Romney or Bill Kristol money. Wouldn't that have been kind of weird?
No, God!
Okay.
No, God, please,
Calm down,
no,
Michael Scotts.
no,
But
no,
RFK Jr., in terms of his fundraising, I'm not really sure what the outcome of that is going to be. I mean, the problem is that when you run a third-party campaign, in one sense, you're running it to be principled, to sort of break the machine, get away from the establishment. and show that you're different. But when RFK Jr. runs on this whole anti-establishment, I'm gonna be both bipartisan in some sense, right? Kind of like play the middle. When you pick such a hardcore lefty candidate as this Nicole Shanahan lady is, and we are going to talk about her more extensively tomorrow. But Roger Stone posted this, and obviously he's a huge Trump fan. He owes Trump his life, and Trump, pardoned him. So here's what Roger Stone posted. He says RFK criticizes Biden, but then chooses a Biden mega donor for vice president. Somebody better ask her where she stands on the COVID-19 vaccination. Her politics are hard left and repugnant. Huge mistake by RFK, who did it for the money. The man of principle who cannot be bought just got bought. Oof. And somebody else posted like the guests urged to be vaccinated for a party at anti-vax Kennedy's home. Somebody posted that underneath there, but that was probably his wife Cheryl Hines who required that during the pandemic, because you know how the lefties are. Lefties were. Bitch Mobile joining us live this morning. I love that name. Love saying that name. What's up, bitch? What's up, bitch? Liberty Shindig, Ken Milligan joining us says, hey, AP, what made you jump in against Gary Johnson? Well, he hadn't even announced, and I was supporting Rand Paul, but Rand was trailing in the polls, and honestly, I felt like we just at that time in 2016, there was this whole gap of time where no libertarian was really running, and nobody was really pushing the ideals of limited government. So I just said to myself, I was like, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I stepped up to run because I thought I just want to be a good representative for our ideas and for our movement. And because I felt like after the Tea Party movement was starting to wind down, that we were losing a lot of momentum. And I was hoping to just try and, in my own little way, try and keep the message of liberty alive. And so I ran against Gary Johnson because I didn't hate Gary Johnson yet, but I just wanted to light a fire under his butt and get him to get out there and campaign. I hated that candidates felt entitled to win these nominations, and I hated this sense of I'm just going to I'm going to campaign once every 4 years. The truth is that if you really want to get people, light the brush fires, the campaign has to continue throughout the off season. You have to keep people interested and excited as you go through the years. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been, and I've been fighting for liberty without rest since 2007. It's 2024. This is just this time period has flown by. The last 20 years almost that I've been campaigning for liberty, and I'm campaigning for liberty in the off years. This year's an election year. Next year, you know where I'm going to be? Right here. You know where I'm going to go? To the Hy-Vee, to my local Republican club, and keep people organized and excited about these campaigns, because the true warrior, happy warrior, is going to fight when it's the off season. You've got to keep people warmed up. You've got to keep people educated and entertained and engaged, so that when the election season comes, it's not just, oh, who's our candidate going to be? Because I mean, God damn, who is the Libertarian Party putting up right now? I mean, listen, I don't fault the people who just jumped into the race this year. That's what I did. I was very, very active in politics. But for the most part, it's like you've got to have a game plan in the off years to keep people excited and keep people motivated. It's just my thoughts on that. So let's get back to the news here. We're talking a little bit about the big national news and how the polls are looking these days. Let's take a listen to CNBC before we talk about NBC firing Ronna McDaniel.
Have the best policies on these issues. Let's go. Overall economy, the fourth most important issue. Donald Trump has a 30-point lead on that. Crime tied for fourth, 28-point lead for Trump. Inflation, the most important issue, 27-point for Donald Trump. Healthcare, Biden has a 19-point advantage on that. And the middle class, that's a place, as Wolf was talking about.
Let's pause for just a moment. So who is better, Biden or Trump? This is CNBC's All-America Economic Survey here, Trump versus Biden. And here we see overall economy, Trump dominates, 30 points. Crime, Trump dominates, 28 points. Inflation, Trump dominates, 27 points. The only thing that Biden leads on is healthcare, which is why the other day I said that I actually didn't believe Trump when he came out and says that he doesn't want to overturn the ACA, because he was calling Biden a liar for saying that he wants to overturn the ACA. I think he probably is just saying that to get elected. I'm going to be honest. The funny thing about Donald Trump is that you can only really believe half of what you hear, or maybe even a third of what you hear from Donald Trump, because the man knows that he's got to say what he's going to say to get elected, and you can like it or you can dislike it. But Donald Trump, in an era when there are so few Republicans on the national level that are getting elected, when our majority on the Supreme Court is slim, and when the in the Senate and the House we're hanging by a thread, Donald Trump, to an extent, knows how to get elected. Now, has he had some problems with some elections? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, he makes the kinds of decisions that are difficult decisions politically, to say what he thinks he needs to say to get elected. And again, you don't have to like that, but there are certain issues there's a reason why he won me over, and why I'm now a confirmed delegate to the Missouri Republican Congressional District 1 convention, and will be representing him, and we'll try to vote for him as an elector if possible. And that is because the reason why I tried to run against him in 2016 is because the things that he said, we had not seen him govern. He had no record. When he said he was for Obamacare and for socialized medicine, we have no choice but to take him for face value. I think he said those things just to get elected, because when he actually got elected, he did a lot of libertarian stuff. A lot of libertarian stuff. And as a matter of fact, the libertarian stuff that Trump did made conservatives angry, because conservatives didn't agree with a lot of the things that Donald Trump did that were very libertarian things. And quite frankly, I think that Trump said a lot of things he didn't mean in order to get elected. And then he went in and he did some smashing of skulls. He wasn't a perfect president. Nobody is. But I think he's going to be far better than Biden. And honestly, I'm sick of paying $3.69 at the pump. Right? I've got a baby on the way. I've got to think about my family. I want economic security. You know what the sad reality is that you should hear. Let me peel back the curtain here for you. The sad reality is that people like me, who are in conservative or libertarian talk media spaces, right? And we're going to use this as a good transition to talk about Ronna McDaniel getting fired from the MSM network, NBC. The sad reality is that it would actually be in my selfish, personal, financial best interests if Joe Biden gets reelected. And you probably know this to some extent, or at least you understand this, that we do better in the media, on the right media, when you have a Democrat in office. That's just what it is. Because especially when you run like a fear-based media outlet, and the fear-based ones are the ones that get the most views and clicks and listens and stuff. Somebody the other day was like chiming in on Rumble. This is such a normie podcast, and I'm like, yes, okay, that's fine. I'm here normalizing libertarianism. Well, if you're normalizing it, it isn't normal. That's the problem. Is that liberty isn't normal, and damn it, it needs to be. It needs to be the norm. So for us in the media on the right, it's difficult to, many aren't like honest with you. They may say they want to get Donald Trump elected, but at the end of the day, they're going to secretly root for Biden. But I don't wish that on my worst enemy. I don't want that to happen to the people of my community. If next year Donald Trump gets reelected and this show loses a little bit of viewership, loses a little bit of our monthly sponsorships, our monthly subscriptions, which you should do, by the way, you should subscribe to the show as a monthly sponsor. Let's do this today. Help us get through the tough years. When you see your soldiers in Valley Forge, they still need to be clothed. They still need to be fed. Next year, when I know you're going to be exhausted from all the politicking and campaigning, please do become a monthly sponsor of the Wake Up America show, because our revenue will go down, especially if Donald Trump gets elected. And we need to keep up the fight, because, in the off years, when we're gonna suffer in those years when Donald Trump is president. Now, the rest of the economy will be doing great, and you should be doing much better financially. But if you're not a monthly sponsor to the Wake Up America show, especially if Donald Trump gets reelected, please do become one. If you're not going to do it today, then please consider doing it later this year. Quest Fanning says, the continued campaigning and advocacy is my favorite thing about fellow New Yorker Larry Sharpe. Yes, he's a great guy. He gets out all over the state advocating for candidates and policies. That's good to hear. Sign of Jonah says, God forbid you lose viewership. It might happen. The thing is that slow and steady wins the race. I'm in this for the long haul. I think I've demonstrated that to you people, how much my commitment is, and my resolute commitment to fight for these principles of limited government. But the reality is that in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, whispering words of wisdom. Javier Milei is trending on Twitter. Okay, but I can't get there yet. I don't want to be distracted by my man crush. We're going to talk about something else. Before we talk about the big news of Ronna McDaniel Romney, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. If it's your first time joining us here, some of you might not know the difference between a subscribe and a follow. I should use the word follow because on Rumble, if you want to like follow the channel, then you do that and that's free. But if you subscribe to the channel, then it's something that you're actually paid to, you give like $5 a month, $10 a month to support the show. So follow the channel. That way you'll find us again tomorrow morning. The Wake Up America show streams live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. And we like to have you become a regular guest. So click that follow button and the like if you haven't done so yet. You can also send us a text at 573-319-1586. Again, the text lines are open anytime, night or day, at 573-319-1586. We do like to hear lately from our friends who are listening to the audio podcast later. Quest asked the question, will you be doing Freedom Family Friday this week or taking the day off for Good Friday? Well, I want to say happy Easter to all of my friends. Christ has risen, but we will be working tomorrow. So if you'd like to join us tomorrow morning, we'll be here. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be. Ken Shiroyu joining us here this morning. Ohio gozaimasu. He says, I'm in New York City for 40 years. I bet those liberal females voting Democrat, no matter what, enjoy being punched in the violence for sure. Yikes. I've seen some of these videos. Somebody put a compilation video together of all these TikToks of girls recording themselves after they got randomly punched in the face in New York City. It's kind of sad, honestly.
How dare you?
And thanks for joining us, by the way, Ken Shiroyu. Nice to have you here. He says, NYC as a Democrat mayor, Demorat, and New York State as a Demorat governor. What can go wrong? It's a bad place to be. Arigatou gozaimasu. Sign of Jonah. And Wally Tron Charming joining us for the very first time today. It's nice to see some new names and faces in the chat. Welcome. Speaking words of wisdom, NBC, do. In a last-ditch attempt to save her job, Ronna McDaniel Romney got a lesbian haircut. Babylon Bee headline this morning. I love this. This is Ronna McDaniel Romney with her lesbian haircut. NBC's termination of its newly hired political analyst was put on hold today. In a last-ditch attempt to save her job, Ronna McDaniel got a super lesbian haircut. I'm pulling out all the stops, says McDaniel, as she carefully tousled her hair into its maximally butch position. Oh, yeah, that's the look. We are laughing. Ronna McDaniel Romney, why did she get fired? Well, it's because of things like this. This is Republican voters against Trump and with giant sticks up their butts, playing this clip from Liz Cheney talking about how Ronna McDaniel enabled Trump's effort to overturn the 2020 election. Speaking of butch females.
I feel that it's very important to actually go back and look at what she did. Because what she did was, first of all, enable and spread herself the big lie. And the big lie is this big lie that the election was rigged, that the election was stolen, that there was fraud, that that somehow Donald Trump actually won the election. That big lie is toxic in our democratic system. And and her role in spreading that is important to remember. She also, though, we know from public testimony in front of the Select Committee, she was directly involved in Donald Trump's effort to generate fake electors.
No, God!
No, Liz Cheney,
please,
no!
No! No!
Not that, not fake electors. No, we cannot struggle with this. Yeah, I love this little super cut that MRC News Media Research Center put together, Newsbusters, of all of the worst outbursts of leftist hacks demanding that Ronna McDaniel Romney
The fact
be
that
fired.
Ms. McDaniel is on the payroll at NBC News, to me, that is inexplicable.
I have some thoughts about Ronna McDaniel and the normalization of the dangerous, damned lies from the Republican Party.
She is a co-conspirator and an enabler.
An anti-democracy election denier.
She lied to the American people to further the autocratic movement that is Trumpism.
She dropped the Romney from her name, apparently, because Donald Trump hates Mitt Romney.
How does that feel?
Can relate.
To change your name to curry favor with a madman. We weren't asked our opinion of the hiring, but if we were, we would have strongly objected to it.
And I hope they will reverse their decision.
We hope.
Look at that butch haircut there, and we hope they will reverse their decision.
We hope NBC will reconsider its decision.
And this is not about not having Republicans on. Right. My good friend Michael Steele is the former also RNC chair.
If you are going to be on American media, you should be somebody who believes that there is something called truth, that there are things called facts.
You wouldn't hire.
What is a woman, pal? Let's talk about truth and facts. What is a woman?
Hire a wise guy. You wouldn't hire a made man like a mobster to work at a DA's office.
It goes without saying that she will not be a guest on Morning Joe.
Ronna McDaniel would not appear on our air.
Ronna McDaniel will not be on our air.
Our sacred airwaves.
Ronna.
Our sacred airwaves. They're airwaves. They're sacred. Oh, no, hit the panic button, everybody. The airwaves, they're sacred. Oh my gosh.
How dare you?
You can't appear on our sacred
McDaniel will not.
airwaves.
It goes
Hold
without
on, I gotta hear
saying
that again.
that she will not be a guest on Morning Joe.
Ronna McDaniel would not appear on our air.
Ronna McDaniel will not be on our air.
Our sacred airwaves.
Ronna
Sacred airwaves. Yeah.
McDaniel will not be on MSNBC.
The viewers of this platform in particular, for at least 8 years, have found a home here for conversations around protecting democracy. And what they saw in the hiring of Ronna McDaniel is a decision to bring on board someone who's a liar.
Oh my God, that is some funny stuff. Funny. I like how Glenn Beck reacted to the days.
NBC News leadership has announced that former RNC chair Ronna McDaniel will not be an NBC News contributor. We have a new email and update that's come out just within this hour. So this is sort of breaking news here within our organization on a story that has garnered significant attention and criticism. In this new email, quote, "There's no doubt that the last several days have been difficult for the news group. After listening to the legitimate concerns of many of you, I have decided that Ronna McDaniel will not be an NBC News contributor." He goes on to write that no organization, particularly a newsroom, can succeed unless it is cohesive and aligned. Over the last few days, it has become clear that disappointment undermines that goal.
May I just say,
hi, Glenn.
You are pathetic, NBC News. Absolutely pathetic.
Yes.
Your newsroom can't work if you're not all aligned. You shouldn't be aligned on politics or anything else. You should be aligned on finding the facts and reporting them accurately.
Yes.
Since when do we all have to believe exactly the same thing?
And let's be honest. I mean, people over at the Blaze with Beck, a lot of those people, they don't. I bet you that Glenn Beck probably doesn't agree with a lot of what like Aaron McIntyre has to say over at the Blaze. Glenn Beck is much more of a libertarian character. He's not like a tradcon authoritarian right winger like so many of the people that are employed over at his network are. Glenn is more Tea Party. He's more like us, right? Ideologically. But not everybody who works for him has to be 100% on the same page politically, right? You can't run a network like that. It falls apart. And certainly you see what happens. A lot of these mainstream news networks, they're really just propped up. They don't have the ratings to really bring in the cash, so they have to bring the money in somewhere else.
You're
So take a look.
pathetic. There is something to be said for opposition in all things. Now, that's
Yes.
amazing, because that comes from God, who kind of knows the truth. And yet, he set up a system where opposition in all things is important. But not for NBC News. No. Our people know the truth, and they don't need to hear anybody else's opinion on what the truth will be. We know it.
Not on their sacred airwaves. It's not going to happen. Well, these comedians, God, I hate political comedians so much, because I posted this yesterday on X.com. But political comedians, they exist in a sort of a political purgatory, if you will, where what they want is they want the ability to push their ideology, whatever it is, without having to face the scrutiny of actual contention with their ideas. Because whenever a political comedian says something that's stupid or ignorant or indefensible, they want to be able to hide behind the curtains and say, I'm just joking. It's just a joke. Like Jon Stewart or Jimmy Kimmel or Stephen Colbert. I mean, name any political comedian. And it's not to say that like political comedians, some of them don't have something to say, like Dave Chappelle or George Carlin or what have you. But at the end of the day, if they're like George Carlin said a lot of stupid lefty bullshit. Now, he said a lot of things that some right wingers might agree with, and we would applaud him. And he certainly had like he was so independent that kind of like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he pulls a little from both sides in some ways. But there were a lot of things that George Carlin had to say that was just, I'm sorry, it was horse. You know what I'm saying? So if he was actually in politics, or if he was actually a commentator or someone who was trying to air their views or opinions in a way that they had to stand up to scrutiny, or if they actually ran for public office, they might get called out on it, right? It's not, again, Dave Chappelle, George Carlin, I'm glad they exist, but for them, the comedy, the jokes, and the money and the fame are far more important than the ideas that they care about, or else they would put their ideas out there as they actually believe them. But this is how leftists, like political hacks, he doesn't give a shit. So funny. He's on our side. Clap, clap, clap. On January 6th so much is because they have to avoid talking about the rape and the murder and the destruction of property that went on during the 2020 pandemic all across this country. Well, thank you. Thank you. How about the BLM riots? Aren't I funny? I made a political point. Can you give me an applause? Yes. How about all those leftists that got smoked by Kyle Rittenhouse in the riots in Kenosha? I'm a comedian. These are jokes, you see? These are political points that are supposed to be jokes. Aren't I funny? Anyways, good morning, CJ8824. Nice to see you here. Gwilcos0422. They have nothing else. Nice to see you. We appreciate all you joining us here on the Wake Up America show today. 15 minutes until Camelia Peterson joins us live. You cannot have a difference of opinion on the left. You must march in lockstep. You are not allowed to think for yourself. There must be total conformity and unanimity of opinion, and the left cannot allow any dissension amongst their ranks, and they certainly are never going to allow someone, not even a milquetoast center, I would just call Ronna McDaniel Romney just a centrist, if you will, not even like center right. But I mean, they can't even handle someone who's in the center, because to them, the center is the right. You know what I'm saying? Like this is where the left is. And if you didn't see this, Babylon Bee, enjoy this hilarious picture. In last ditch attempt to save job, Ronna McDaniel gets lesbian haircut. Now that's an actual comedy. That's an actual joke. A good joke. It's going to have political comedy. Only good, funny political comedy is right-wing political comedy these days. Everybody's talking about Javier Milei this morning, and I wish I could speak Spanish, because I can't enjoy so many of these clips that come out. I have to wait like 2 or 3 days later for people to translate it from Argentine Spanish into English. But apparently Javier Milei's trending because he kicks ass as usual. We love our Javier Milei, don't we? Sign of Jonah says he has to go get coffee. AP, can you go to commercial, please? Well, yeah, I would love to do a little bit of a commercial. How would you do that? How about that, Jonah? I'm going to give you a minute and a half to go get yourself some coffee while I talks about some coffee. Is that okay? Everybody knows that I'm excited to see the birth of my very first child, little Hazel Rose Peterson, going to be joining us here in just a few months. When we get little baby Hazel Rose, we're going to get her this cute little onesie. Come and take it pacifier infant bodysuit. Isn't that cute? Hello. It comes in a variety of colors. We've got a whole little line of merchandise for your little tykes there, and you can get this exclusively designed by my lovely wife, Steffi, at ap4libertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, ap4libertyshop.com. Check out our awesome collections. You can come up here, click all collections, and it'll show you all the different stuff that we have in the shop. Obviously, I love people trying our coffee. This morning, I'm drinking Franklin's Electric Elixir, which is one of my top 3 of all of our coffees. But if you're interested to see all that AP for Liberty Shop has to offer, we went from selling little mini Buddhas. These were our first products that we sold in the shop. These were our little Trumpy Buddhas and like our Thomas Jefferson Buddhas. We went from selling little mini Buddhas to becoming like a Liberty mega shop. And it's been a big part of our revenue in the last year. I think our like gross intake, the first year was like 26,000, and then the next year that we started it, we've brought in like 38,000 or so, and like obviously that's gross, so we don't get to keep all of that. Like only like a third of that ends up being ours, but it's it's enough to help pay the bills, and new life and new light in the family. We'll have little Hazel Rose, and we get to take care of our family a little bit on this. And we've had a huge hit success this year with the Javier Milei collection. Give it up for Javier Milei. And of course, he's posted a lot of our merch. Our big hit, international hit sneakers, 5-star, independently verified reviews, Javier Milei of Fuera sneakers, and they have been selling all over the world. I was so excited when we started getting sales in Japan. See a little AP logo in there that I designed. You can, when you get them too, when you get the shoes, not only do they have like the cool AP logo on them, but they come in a really nice package and a branded box. So when you get your Afuera sneakers and you wear them out on the streets and people are like, who is Javier Milei? You can talk to them a little bit about the Lion of Argentina. If you're curious about the different foot sizes in different countries, US, UK, Europe, and Japan, we have listed all of the sizes there. So, and not only that, but chaclas, ojetas, as they call it down in Argentina. But if you like these, and I know that a lot of you will look at this and say, hey, that price seems very high for those. Just remember that the shipping is free in the United States. So if you live in the USA and you're coming over here and you're like, hey, I like your coffee and I like your Javier Milei stuff, don't forget that the price does include the shipping. So you don't have to worry at the checkout that you're going to be like, oh, it's going to be way more than that. It's going to be the price that you see. That is the price that you're going to get. So go to AP, the number 4, ap4libertyshop.com. Get yourself a delicious mug of coffee mug while you're there. Famous Thomas Jefferson quote, the favorite drink of the civilized world, said Thomas Jefferson. They were really mad at tea, remember? So they started drinking coffee to be patriotic. So grab a box of coffee, grab a coffee mug at AP, the number 4, ap4libertyshop.com. That's AP, the number 4, ap4libertyshop.com. You guys in the mood for some coffee? Glad to have all of our friends joining us here live this morning on the Wake Up America show. Please do click that like button and subscribe to our channel if you're joining us here live on Rumble. We'd be glad to have you come back and join us on the regs. The Wake Up America show streams live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, and you can join us and text us at 573-319-1586. Again, the text lines are open anytime at 573-319-1586. We've been talking a little bit this morning about the firing of Ronna McDaniel over at NBC, a little bit of a clown circus show over there. And as well as talking about what's happening with the American economy. In about 10 minutes, we're going to hear from Camelia Peterson. She's going to talk to us about Ron DeSantis of Florida, who is coming out and passing a bill to ban and delete the accounts, social media accounts of minors, which lends one to wonder whether or not the Republican Party has decided that the government should, in fact, be the parents of the child, and that parents are not fit to make the decisions for their own children or to police their own children's social media behavior. We all need the government to do it for us. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear them on this question. Did you support Ron DeSantis' social media bill? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. Again, the text lines are open at 573-319-1586. All right. Well, I'm going to take a little break, and then I'm going to go get Camellia. Enjoy the bonus content that you unlocked a little bit earlier today, thanks to Kilsharian and Quest Fanning this morning. And we'll be right back with Camellia Peterson on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Don't go away.
I'm just here singing, buying time with the tune y'all see, so words don't get lost in the digital sea. It's a little old break, just a short delay. Hang on, the video's on its way. Yeehaw! Just stalling for time, you see?
Want an exciting action thriller about government spying, murder, and cover-ups? Enemy of the State is a film that conspiracy-loving libertarians would definitely enjoy. Enemy of the State combines an Orwellian theme, a powerful cast that features Gene Hackman, and marks one of Will Smith's gravest film choices, posing the question that if one were come into evidence of the murder of a government official, what could possibly go wrong? Attorney Robert Dean stumbles upon evidence of a government cover-up, sending him on a desperate run to save himself and his family. Dean's only hope lies with Brill, a secretive figure who might hold the key to unraveling the mystery. The film excels in depicting a world of pervasive surveillance, using advanced technology from bugs to CCTV to craft a believably intrusive scenario. Its success is grounded in the simplicity and believability of its surveillance tactics, weaving them into an engaging plot. Tons of action throughout keeps the story moving as we learn more about what governments will do to keep their secrets and their budgets flowing. The ensemble of high-profile actors, including Gene Hackman, Jon Voight, and Stuart Wilson, enhances the story with their compelling performances. The dynamic between Hackman and Smith stands out, showcasing a brilliant on-screen chemistry that evolves from mutual dislike to collaboration. This film showcases Will Smith's transition from comedic roles to serious acting, although his performance occasionally slips back into familiar territory. Smith's attempt to mix humor with his serious role sometimes undercuts the credibility of his character as a sharp attorney. Despite its flaws, Enemy of the State is a smartly packaged action movie that tackles the concept of government surveillance with a thought-provoking angle. It's a film that not only entertains, but also stimulates contemplation about privacy and government power, making it a must-watch for conspiracy enthusiasts. In conclusion, Enemy of the State's blend of suspense, technology, and a stellar cast offers a thrilling ride through the implications of a surveillance society. It's highly recommended for libertarians that want a little fun with a dose of paranoia alongside your popcorn.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit PetersonVoiceStudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP4Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at ap4libertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericashow.com. I love this picture sent in to us this morning from Kill Sharian, her cute little puppy Willow. Look at that, watching the Wake Up America show. Look at AP for Liberty there on your screen. See, Willow knows. I think Willow must really like freedom because she looks like she's very close, like she could give me kisses there. Thank you for sending in that picture, Kill Sharian. You can send us pictures too at 573-319-1586. Again, that's 573-319-1586. There's cute little puppy Willow watching the show this morning with Kill Sharian. Hope that you're all having a wonderful morning. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. All right. Well, if any of you got kids, I don't. Well, actually, I kind of do yet. The pro-lifers would say, yes, you do. You're a father. Okay. Well, I don't quite feel like one just yet. But when I have kids, I will be their parent, and I will be the person who is responsible for ensuring that they don't shave the sides of their head and get a big-ass nose ring so they look like a cow, and ensure that they don't blow up to 350 pounds, and it's going to be my job to ensure that they don't become a communist. Yes. They should hate the state and love liberty. That's my job. I guess there's two jobs. All of those things and hate the government, but also stay off the stripper pole and OnlyFans. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like part of that, if I don't want any of that stuff to happen, if I don't want my child to become a leftist, communist, if I don't want them to be, go on welfare, blow up to 350 pounds, I'm probably going to have to keep little Hazel Rose off of TikTok for as long as possible. And I don't need the government's help to do it. Joining us now to discuss is a mother of 2 daughters, Camellia Peterson.
Good morning. Do you also need the government to help keep your kids from buying loot boxes, and gaming and whatnot too? Like there's so many things that the government, needs to help your kids with or help you parent, right?
Well, I just remember that, like Josh Hawley, when he first got elected, I know that's who you're talking about because he tried to introduce the legislation to kill the loot boxes and things like that in video games. Like the funny thing is that the people who spend the most amount of money on those games are people like our very wealthy friend Jennifer Bukowski, the lawyer, and she was pissed because she's like, I love my Bejeweled and Bedad, whatever, and all that stuff. It's the parents who are playing these things, but I mean, in regards to this legislation that Ron DeSantis of Florida signed, I saw that his conservative backers out there, and listen, I like Ron DeSantis. Typically, there's a lot of things I agree with. He's taken a decidedly more authoritarian bent, though, in recent years, that to my liking, whereas he was a little bit more liberty before. He's a little less liberty these days, but I already see that this is sparking a debate in the comments. Some people say kids don't have a right to be on social media. Well, the government doesn't have the right to take it away either, do they, CJ?
No, I mean, this is not a question about, well, the only question about rights that we are talking about right here are parental rights. And the government stepping in is usurping parental rights. And so, I mean, this idea, I understand that the government has a role to play in, protecting the rights of citizens. And you can talk about, the government has a role to play in protecting, the life of and then health of a child when the parents are not doing that or they are harming the child. But you can get into some very muddy waters and gray areas when you start talking about, what kind of content you're allowing them to consume. So would it be the government's job to step in if, kids are reading, X-rated materials, or if they're reading, books with lascivious content? I mean, where do we draw the line? Is it just that it's social media, or is it anything they do at all? And then if you want to go down that road, then let's talk about how intrusive the government has to be to monitor everything that your kids are doing. And sounds kind of like communism to me.
I know. I laugh so hard at people whenever they call anything communism, and it's like what? But they'll call anything communism, but actual communism, right? But in regards to this social media bill, here's what it does. Under House Bill 3, most social media sites will be required to deny accounts to those under 14. Most of them already do, and terminate any accounts already held by kids under 14, including accounts that the platform isn't certain are held by someone under 14, but that the company treats or categorizes as belonging to an account holder who is likely younger than 14 years of age for purposes of targeting content or advertising. Accounts held by 14 and 15-year-olds are also targeted for deletion under the law, though these teenagers can keep their accounts with parental permission. So the parents have to ask the government for permission here.
There's so many holes in this, so many unanswered questions. I mean, you said right there, they haven't said how they have to verify ages. And you can't verify ages for kids without verifying age for everyone. So what does that mean for social media companies? And these kind of other states have been attempting to do this, and they've been getting thrown out in the courts because of these very questions. And I don't know. I think this is the same issue that on Twitter, they have been going after Brad Palumbo on this, and in very terrible ways, as far as accusing him of very terrible things because of his lifestyle, because he's questioning the age verification on this. So all of a sudden they're saying,
because he's
this
gay.
Is right. It's awful. And Christina Pushaw actually,
yeah,
right. Christina Pushaw actually came out and defended him. And the thing is that they are wrong. He's right, and they are wrong in their arguments on this, because it is just, there's no way. I understand wanting to protect kids from these things, but there's just no practical way to do it without it being a major intrusion into everyone's privacy. And so the bottom line is like, we have to, it's not going to be perfect, but we have to trust parents, and parents have to step up and take the responsibility for monitoring what their kids are doing on social media.
Yeah, for sure. It's unfortunate that conservatives have given in to the left on so many things because the conservatives will be the first to cry foul whenever the liberals will come out with a new idea or new program. But it really is like that Michael Malice quote where he says that conservatism is just progressivism driving the speed limit. It seems as if any leftist, any progressive vision of society that gets advanced 20 years later, it's the conservative platform as well. But I don't understand the instinct on this. Like, why do conservatives trust government so much to do the right thing? I guess it's probably my team, right? Whenever they see it done by, it's like when gun control is done by a Republican, that's when like they come out and they're like, well, remember when they told us that we didn't need bump stocks, Camellia? Remember when they told us you don't need a bump stock? Nobody uses a bump stock. I remember the day that happened. And Senator Josh Hawley did the same thing. He comes out, he goes, President signed an executive order. And I was running at the time, so I definitely cut this clip and posted it. He's like, President has signed an executive order that to ban bump stocks, and I think that is absolutely correct. We need to ensure that people aren't using bump stocks, even though I've never seen or held or touched or smelled a gun in my entire life. But what the president does is absolutely correct.
Well, I think that as a society, we have become like the frog in the pot of water, right? We've slowly let government take over more and more and more since the Great Depression. And because, the problems seem too big for anybody to handle at the community level. So we said, the government can do it. The government can take care of us. Never mind that the government does it very badly. Like, is there ever been a government program that has been well run? The answer is no. So, but I think that we are, even on the right, there are, most of the people on the right are used to letting somebody else take care of things. Like, it requires work and self-discipline and responsibility to take care of these things yourself instead of letting the government take care of them for you.
Well, and here's the problem with the conservative view on this, and when it comes to social media, and I know that this is gonna have them up in flames, but the assumption that they're making with a bill like this is that social media is confirmed, scientifically proven to be bad for you. And while there have been studies and there has been research done that has come out and showed that there are some deleterious or harmful effects of social media, it is not a proven fact that it is wrong or bad for you, or that it necessarily causes harm to everyone in society. Some people actually benefit from social media. Some people wouldn't have a community otherwise. Where do you think that dating gets done in the world today? People who are, here's the thing. It strikes me very much of the kind of boomer con politics, the same boomer conservative politics that gives us the bump stock bans, that sells us out on Social Security, that sells us out on these issues because they don't understand how rights work and they don't understand how freedom works, right? They talk about like rights as if government has a right to do something, but the government should have no rights. People should have all of the rights until proven otherwise, essentially. I've seen this, in these meetings that I go to. Most people have no conception of like what is like a legitimate lawful power of government and what is a legitimate and lawful right that is held by an individual. They don't know the difference. They think that if something is a law, then that makes it good or that makes it moral, and if something is illegal, that makes it immoral and bad. They think that it's the government's job to determine what is morality rather than to allow that to exist within the marketplace of individuals making those decisions for themselves. Because you know what it is, Camellia? They can't stand to live in a free society. I think deep down, not only do they fear freedom, but I think that partially they hate freedom. One, because it allows people to do things that they don't approve of, and two, because the fear that they have in that something bad could happen. Like I see my friend Guokas, and we love you, Guokas, buddy, but I'm just going to use you an example because you're yelling at us with the caps lock on this morning in the chat. But he's like, "Oh, what? You should allow kids to drive." Yes, and here's why. I was a child and I was driving not only around my farm, but around the little dirt road neighborhoods I was driving tractors, I was farm equipment, I was driving cars around on the dirt roads around my farm. Like, what do you think? That my dad was not like man enough to know how to look after his son and to ensure that I was being safe? Like, the problem is that if you can't control yourself, just because you can't control yourself doesn't mean you should control your neighbor, right? Like, I don't know your situation and I don't know your children. Maybe you communicate with your kids through instant messenger at 13 years old, and that's how you track your kids and ensure that they're coming home safe. Keep your goddamn government hands off of our cell phones and keep your stupid ass backward traditional conservative, whatever the flip you want to call it, backwards morality off of my fucking rights and away from my children. How's that? Can I get an amen somewhere out there? Happy Easter.
So oh goodness. Here's the thing. Let's take this and apply this. I mean, because if we're going to apply things across the board here, look at the issue that everybody has been up in arms with in the schools, with the DEI issues, with the indoctrination that's been happening in our public schools. People have been outraged about this, but this is the same thing. You're letting the government, tell your children what to think and what to do. They're trying to be the parents of your children. So, I mean, it's the same thing as like the government tried to dictate what your kids consume, in your personal home. And this just goes back to, I mean, America was founded on responsibility and self-sufficiency and independence, and this idea that you can do what you want as long as you're not hurting anyone else. And when my older daughter was born, one of the things before she was even born that I saw somewhere, and I picked up this little stone plaque because I loved what it said, and it said, "Prepare the child for the path, not the path for the child." And that stuck with me because you cannot make everything perfect for your child's life and keep every single harm out of their way and protect them put them in a glass bubble, right? You can't do that. So you have to prepare your children for the things that they will encounter on a day-to-day basis as they get older. Do we protect them to a certain extent up to a certain point? Absolutely. We expose them to things as they are ready and they are mature enough to handle those things. And parents are the best judge of that because children are different. Not every child is ready to be exposed to certain things at the same age as another child. And so we're getting away from that mindset, and that's that helicopter parent thing. And, we all kind of have that tendency, we want to protect our children from things, but it is far more important to prepare them to deal with those things. I think the same thing applies to social media. And it's that's my job.
And well, exactly. And I love the attitude that we hear from conservatives when it comes to something like gay marriage. And they're like, well, this is a slippery slope. What is this going to lead to? Look at it's a slippery slope. It's true. Well, what do you think if that's true, then doesn't the slippery slope fallacy, doesn't the slippery slope argument get applied to government taking control over social media and stepping in that way? Doesn't that slippery slope apply as well? And thank you for Kill Sharian this morning who mentioned that, and I riffed on it. That was her idea. Levin214 over in the chat dropped in $10 in the tip jar. Thank you, Levin, by the way. We appreciate that. He said, I'm a DeSantis man who agrees with almost all of what he does. That being said, I strongly disagree with this social media ban for minors. Parents need to know what the kids are into these days. Amen, Levin. And again, I agree with more of what Ron DeSantis does than disagree.
Sure.
But the things like these, I would just like to see the government keep their damn hands out of it, because I think that they will do more harm than they will do good, including in things like delicious cherry pie. Camelia, we're going to segue here to talk about one of your favorite subjects. I know you're a big fan of pie, and I think that, and I know that anybody who knows you knows that your favorite kind of pie is frozen pie from the refrigerators in the supermarkets,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
No,
Oh yeah.
no.
Oh my word. Oh no, I am highly selective about pie. In fact, I will almost never, I'm a pie snob. I'll almost never buy pie in a store or even in a restaurant because I'm picky and, not to be conceited or anything, but I pretty much only like the pie I make.
Oh, really? Well, the reason why I brought it up is because I'm reading a great story about reason that caught my attention. Did you have time to check this out? This after 20
Yes.
years, they finally freed the frozen cherry pie. I was like, this
Free
is
the
a story.
cherries.
Free the
Okay.
cherries, yes. There's a lot of good double entendres here. I'll let you make them. The market offers many alternatives to bad desserts. We don't need the FDA to step in. What's this story?
So it was so funny that you sent this. I didn't realize this was ongoing because I remember seeing this story a few years ago, and this article references that. And it was while Trump was in office that they kind of came out and announced that they were going to be working on the process of undoing this FDA regulation that dictated like how many and what kind of quality and all of these things about certain kinds of cherries and how much exactly had to go into a cherry pie that was going to be sold in stores, and specifically frozen cherry pies. And I looked briefly to try to figure out where and this has been in place since 1971. I mean, and only cherry pies, like no other fruit pies, no, no triple berry pies, no apple pies, no strawberry pies, just cherry pies. And so I would love to know kind of why that started. I'm sure it was like anything else, somebody had a problem with something, or maybe it was a competitor and they went to their elected officials and maybe incentivized them to make a law, who knows. But the point is this ridiculous? And under Trump, they started the process of reversing that. And who knew that it would be such a complicated process that it would take this many years till it's finally done?
I would
It's
know something
crazy.
like that. I mean, there's nothing as permanent as a temporary government program, but in this case, they actually are rolling something back, and that started under the Trump administration. See, it's things like this, like make me kind of look back a little fondly on the Trump admin. Not gonna lie.
He freed the frozen cherry pies.
That's good
Yeah,
stuff.
this is just another example of like, what do how far do you let the government go with what they dictate in your life? Because they will not stop at anything. First thing they're regulating your cherry pies. Next thing, they've got cameras in your home because you can't be a good parent and they need to see what your kids are doing at all times.
Camellia, what's your favorite kind of pie?
I like lots of different pies, but I would say probably my absolute favorite is a triple berry pie.
Triple
Like
berry. What does that include?
raspberry, well, like raspberries, and probably I do like quadruple too because I like strawberries too, but raspberries, blueberries, blackberries. That's probably my favorite. And a la mode is best with a little vanilla ice cream on the side. It's got to be warm, but I also like pumpkin and all other kinds of pies too. So
And the best pie is one that is overflowing.
yes. Yeah. No, I'm not one of these people who are like, you've got a pie and it's like this tall. Like, no. If we're gonna have a pie, this is my philosophy in life. You fill everything up to the top. I don't care if it's your pie. I don't care if it's your soup pot or whatever. Like you gamble and you fill everything up to the very tippy top. And this is the way you do your life too. There's always room for a little bit more. And I'd rather, stick a cookie sheet under my pie in the oven and let it bubble over a little bit than to have some little, wimpy, pie that's like an inch tall and you just get a little bit in every bite. I like a lot in a bite.
I would just like to imagine all of the double entendres that are going through people's heads this morning as they're listening to this segment. Camellia, is there anything else you want to share or talk about before we let you go today?
Well, this is kind of a heavy one, but I do want to bring up real quick, and I'm going to retweet this today. So if people want to go over on my Twitter and check that out, that's fine. But you were talking about the abortion issue with the judge yesterday. And so this is kind of a big thing that's come up, and I would love for people to go check out what J.D. Vance said last fall as we're coming up on this election cycle, because this is something that, I think on the right and the pro-life movement, we've gotten lazy and performative, and that's the reason that we're losing on this. So anyway, check that out, please, because I think it's something people need to be thinking about as we come up on the election and your candidates and what's going on in the pro-life movement itself. And there were lots of good comments and lots of good discussion that was going on in the comments yesterday. during that conversation with the judge. And so it was got a little spicy, and we'll talk about
I
that
saw
sometime.
that. Yeah, the abortion stuff. And listen, I just want to remind people who are over there in the chat, and when you don't pile on Gwokus, it's good that we have diversity of opinion here, and
Absolutely.
and he's in there, offering some important points and asking some important questions. So it's okay to disagree with him, but Gwokus is one of us. So everybody, just take it easy and let's all have a slice of pie and calm down.
That's right. We love Gwokus, and we love, that's what makes this community different and better than anywhere else, is that we can have these ideas and disagree and still get along and find common ground.
Absolutely. We want to make sure that we build a nice, healthy, positive community, and that includes the freedom to dissent. Okay, Camelia, thank you very much for joining us here today. It's always great. We appreciate you very much. We'll look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday. Okay, have a good one.
Have a great day, everyone.
What do you guys think of Camelia Peterson? Can you guys see why I invite her to be the regular guest on Tuesday and Thursdays? Because she's always so upbeat and positive and optimistic. And I just, we get along great. There's good chemistry. And I just really think that she just brings something very special to the Wake Up America show, don't you? She should have her own show. Maybe she just bakes pies or something like that, or has some kind of pie themed. I don't know. Wouldn't that be kind of fun? Give Camelia her own show and something to do with pies or politics or whatever. I don't know. Just spitballing here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Again, the text line is 573-319-1586. 1586. You can send us a text anytime, night or day. Thank you all so much for your support of the Wake Up America show. I had a great conversation with my friend Spike Cohen on Monday. He's got an upcoming debate with David Hogg on gun control. I asked Spike about that debate, and I talked to him about his thoughts if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ends up trying to go for the Libertarian Party's nomination. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I'm just here singing, buying time with a tune, y'all see. So words don't get lost in the digital sea. It's a little old break, just a short delay. Hang on, the video's on its way. Yeehaw! Just stalling for time, you see?
Want an exciting action?
Welcome back to the show. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Thankful to have so many people tuning in, joining us live. 500 people joining us live over at rumble.com. It's nice to see you all over there. Lou Grubb, Bitchmobile, love that name. Lou Grubb, Mighty Megatron, Gwokus, 0422, Laura Kendrick joining us. She says she wants to go to Argentina. Steffi for Liberty, good morning. My lovely, sweet, smoking red hot, red-headed libertarian girl joining us live too. Nice to see you all here. And our newest platform at x.com with, 1,471 people joining us live over there today. Almost 2,000 joining us live. I'm glad you're here. Let's be friends. All right, well, it's going to be a bloodbath. And don't freak out just because we use the term bloodbath. We all know that there are many different contexts in which that word could be used. Like the debate that's going to happen between my next guest and David Hogg, Spike Cohen of youarethepower.net, joining us live on the show right now. Good morning, Spike. Nice to see you again, sir.
Good morning, Austin. Thanks for having me back on, man.
Hey, glad to have you here. Obviously, we're excited to hear the news about your debate, and everybody's going to be cheering you on that are very pro-Second Amendment, Spike. We'll talk about that a little bit later. There's something a little bit more universal that I think people are concerned about. Our mutual acquaintance, Thomas Massey, had tweeted about a federal red flag center, he calls it. The U.S. Department of Justice posted that they launched the National Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center. What is this?
So what it looks like, and in fact, Massey's trying to find this out by asking, under what authority are they even being granted the ability to do this? We're still trying to find that out. But the bottom line is this looks like the typical way the federal government tries to coerce/persuade states into doing what they want. They're setting up this federal red flag center, which is to streamline the process, which means, of course, throw lots of money at it. This was timed at the same time that Kamala Harris went down to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School in Parkland, Florida, to commemorate the anniversary there, and to call for all states to implement red flag laws and to use federal funding from the so-called bipartisan gun violence bill from back in 2022. So we can thank Marco Rubio for spearheading that in the Senate. And that's exactly what's happening, is they're now taking these funds, and through the Department of Justice, they're going to give money to states to create swatting bills in their own states.
The red flag laws, obviously very controversial. The biggest challenges that we tend to face as believers in liberty and individual liberty, and that the rights really don't come from government, and that the Second Amendment only writes down the rights that we individuals have. Spike, the
Yep.
question of a red flag law is a difficult conversation to have with the average American citizen, because at the end of the day, I think if you ask the average American citizen, they would all probably say, well, yeah, I'm pro Second Amendment, but crazy people shouldn't be allowed to have guns. What do you say to somebody like that if you're not trying to alienate them, Spike? What's your sort of line of attack, if you will, or how do you convince someone who is, generally pro gun rights, but is concerned that somebody who has a history of mental illness or has displayed some tendencies or has been diagnosed with perhaps schizophrenia or bipolar disorder? How would you sort of respond to someone that you might have an average citizen that you'd have a conversation with about that when they voice those very real concerns?
Right. So the first thing I'd say is, in all 50 states, if someone is deemed to be an active threat to the public or to a specific person, they can have their guns seized, they can be detained on a medical hold. There are already things that are in place for that, right? What red flag laws do are weaponize the ability of your, nosy neighbor or someone that doesn't like you on social media to send a SWAT team after you if they don't like something that you posted, with basically little to no due process. The next thing that I would say is that when it comes to mental illness, something like well over 20 or 30% of Americans are actively seeking therapy, and close to half of Americans at some point will seek therapy for what will be a diagnosed mental health issue. If you create a situation where people who are battling or have battled mental health issues, PTSD, bipolar disorder, or any of these things, are not allowed to own their firearms, the more mentally unwell they are, and especially the more paranoid they are, the less likely they are to seek mental health treatment, because they don't want to give up their guns. So now they still have their guns and they're not getting mental health treatment. That doesn't help anyone.
A liberal judge recently made national headlines when she threw out a case against an illegal immigrant who was in the United States, who was caught during a protest while in possession of a firearm. And everyone is having this debate about whether or not people who are in the United States of dubious national origins, who may have broken the law in coming to the United States, should be allowed to exercise Second Amendment rights. Many conservatives say, no, the Second Amendment only applies to citizens, and people who may be coming here to do us harm, like cartel members, or, for example, people who commit, acts of human trafficking here in the United States, are dangerous individuals of which we would not tolerate gun permission. If terrorists wanted to come to the United States, we wouldn't allow them to walk around with AK-47s. What was your reaction to that case, Spike, and the conservative backlash to the concept of an illegal immigrant having a firearm here in the U.S.?
Well, I would say the same thing to my well-meaning friends on the right that I would say to my well-meaning friends on the left, that if someone is an active danger, if someone is a known cartel member, or is, in the process of being investigated for committing a crime or something like that, or if they're here illegally and the government is in the process of rounding them up to deport them or whatever, that is a separate issue from the question of if someone who has not been convicted of anything has a natural right to own a firearm. And the Second Amendment doesn't grant us that right, just like nothing else in the Bill of Rights grants us any right. What it affirms us is our natural God-given rights to these various things: freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and so forth. And it actually is not, it doesn't apply to citizens. It applies to the government to say that it shall not infringe on the people's rights, which has been defined many times, including by the founders, as meaning any people within the presumed jurisdiction of the U.S. government. So yes, this was a correct ruling. If he is supposed to be deported, then he's supposed to be deported. But that's separate from the question of, if he is here and has not been convicted of anything, does he have the right to own a firearm? Everyone has the right to own a firearm in that situation.
Spike, libertarians are hotly anticipating your debate with David Hogg. Everybody's excited to see it's going to happen at Dartmouth, and obviously we all think that you're going to clean it up. But we're all curious to know sort of what your plan of attack is to a certain extent, right? How do you have a debate with someone whose arguments are largely going to be based on emotion and not on facts and logic? Are you hoping to convince people on the other side of this? If so, how do you do something like that? How are you going to be approaching this debate? And when is it happening?
So it's happening on April the 10th at Dartmouth University. And if you go to spikecohen.com/gun debate, all of the information is there, how you can watch it when it's being live streamed. I would say if you could register, but just about a couple hours after I posted the link a few days ago, it sold out. So apparently, unless you're a student at Dartmouth, there are no more tickets left. But the way I'm going to approach it is this. There are emotional arguments that can be made for just about anything, including the right to keep and bear arms. I have used many times, I've used essentially emotional based arguments saying things like, how many more children have to die before we recognize that gun free zones are no such thing? They're simply a fish in a barrel zone for would be murderers to know that no one else is going to have a firearm. And you can do this with any of the things, red flag laws, any act of gun control, any kind of mandatory buybacks or anything like that. I'm also going to be sticking to the facts. Where the way the debate's being structured is where it's in different sections. So one is about public safety and violence. One is about the Second Amendment itself and the nature of that. One is about applying the Constitution to this, and one is about the actual legal arguments for and against. So on each of those things, I'm going to be applying that argument. But at the end of the day, the facts are on our side. And I will be laying them out. And yeah, my goal is for anyone who is on the fence or anyone who thinks they support gun control but might be persuadable, by the end of this thing, I want them to be on our side.
What do you think where do you think he's going to come from this on his side of things? Like, what do you expect his line of attack to be, if you could guess, Spike?
Yeah, so I mean, from what I've seen from him, he focuses a lot on the fact that these shootings happen and that they're a terrible thing, and then he goes straight to what he calls the solution, which is gun control. The interesting thing about David Hogg is he's actually not a take away all guns person. He is very specific on the things that he wants. He wants to get rid of so-called assault rifles. He wants there to be mandatory buybacks on semi-automatic rifles and universal background checks and those types of things. So it's not going to be a pro-gun versus completely 100% anti-gun debate. But in my mind, that makes it a little bit easier, because if he already recognizes that we have a right to keep and bear arms, it's a lot easier to build out that conversation than with someone who thinks that all guns are bad and all guns should be banned. But I think his argument is largely going to be an emotional one, and that is the typical argument of the gun grabbing side, and it's pretty easily debunk that by showing the facts of what happens when gun control is implemented in the U.S.
I love that term buyback, as if I bought my gun from the federal government in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah, I never bought it from them. So,
and the crazy thing about that is that if you applied that same background check that they want to the government, they would never qualify for the guns that they want to buy back from you.
They have a long history of physical and emotional and mental abuse.
Violence, violent crime, theft, mass murder. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, they're the biggest arms dealer in the world. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson, and the handsome mug of that gentleman joining us live right now is Spike Cohen of youarethepower.net. We're talking to him a little bit about his upcoming debate with David Hogg on the gun control question at Dartmouth, and is very excited, hotly anticipated. We do hope that he will live stream it so that many of us will be able to tune in, and we're excited to watch him clean it up. On a separate topic, I saw that you were embroiled in some debate regarding the governor of Georgia over the weekend, Spike. And please forgive me, I didn't have time to really dig into the details, but I saw that you were taking aim at the governor of Georgia for some reason. I was hoping you could talk us through this.
Absolutely. So my organization, You Are the Power, we find people who are being abused by their local governments, and then we organize to fight until they win. One example of that, or actually multiple examples of that, we are uncovering multiple families whose children have parents whose children have chronic health disorders. They take them to a children's hospital. A child abuse physician says that they have been abused with no evidence of abuse, and actually all of the evidence showing that the kids aren't being abused and have a chronic health problem. And then they're being essentially trafficked through Georgia's Division of Family and Children's Services. The parents are railroaded with fake abuse charges that they're never actually charged with because they have no evidence of it. They just hold that over their heads to try to get them to just give up their kids. We're finding that there are former DFACs, that's what they call it, the DFACs workers, who are coming forward, who are telling us that they were told they would be fired if they weren't calling every case that was put in front of them abuse. We have family court judges that are ignoring medical evidence in court. We have child abuse pediatricians who are being brought in from other states who resigned in disgrace because they were falsely accusing parents of abuse, but they're more than welcome in the Georgia system. And we're calling on Governor Kemp to meet with us and these families to talk about the nightmare that his government is putting them through under his watch, the problems that are causing it, and the fixes that need to be implemented to end this nightmare for them and for thousands of more Georgians across the state.
Well, I admire your work there with youarethepower.net, Spike. It certainly is good to see that libertarian activism involves more than just podcasts and speaking out, in our communities, that you're actually getting out there and putting boots on the ground to fight for liberty. We admire that, Spike, and thank you for doing that kind of work. It's definitely very necessary. I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about electoral politics. If you have a couple of minutes, I'd like to ask you, and this is an unfair way to phrase this question, but it's what I'm really curious about, and you can answer it however you like. But I mean, what happens to the Libertarian Party in your view, Spike, if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. becomes the nominee?
I think it becomes an existential question for the party because it's interesting because the argument for RFK Jr. being the nominee is that he could get us ballot access, get us more attention than we've ever had before, get us a higher share of the vote than ever before, maybe even get us 5% or more, maybe even get us on the debate stage. All of that is true, but at that point, libertarianism and the Libertarian Party will be inextricably linked to a single man who pushes for gun control, universal health care, has talked about favorably about climate lockdowns in the past, has called for people that say climate change isn't real or who are skeptical of climate change to be arrested for it. Even now, still tries to say that he's not supportive of taking guns for now, which is a hell of a qualifier there. And so, if you thought that, Gary Johnson sticking his tongue out or some guy dancing naked on the stage 8 years ago at this point was an embarrassment for the party, what happens when the average American, the only thing they've ever heard of libertarianism is a far left progressive Democrat who used our line to get ballot access? I think it's an existential question for the party. And frankly, if I'm going to sell out my principles for electability, I'll just rejoin the Republican Party and try to make it more libertarian. At least then I'm taking a party that's less libertarian and trying to pull it in my direction. And as a bonus, they actually win elections, like a lot. They win about half of them. Why would I take a party that doesn't win elections but is tied to my ideology and push it in a more authoritarian direction in order to get ballot access? And if that party is willing to sell itself out for ballot access, what the hell good is it? Imagine what they'd be willing to do to win.
Join me in the Republican Party, Spike, and together we will rule the GOP as father and son. Listen, I wouldn't put it past the LP to do it because at this point in time, I think a lot of people assumed Dave Smith was going to run, be the nominee, and kind of give that true north version of libertarianism that a lot of people, especially in the Mises caucus who took over the party, wanted to see. But since then, he's sort of backed off. You're not running, Spike. What's going on, man? Like, you could probably, it would be a layup for you to take the nomination at this point. I mean, who are these people that are running? I mean, I like Josh Smith as a guy, as a friend, and I think he would be a decent candidate, but he doesn't seem to have the mojo. They want this Michael Rechtenwald character who's some former Marxist. I don't know much about him. I don't see him taking the Libertarian Party to any commanding heights. Kind of in a tough spot there, Spike. What do you got? What's got to happen? I mean, are you supporting anyone in that race?
I have decided to stay out of who I'm going to support or not support because I want to trust. If everything's going to hinge on one thing that I've said, then that's a bigger problem than who I've picked or who I haven't picked. What I will say is this: I do believe that the delegates are going to pick an actual libertarian. I will also say aloud that it would be very interesting if a man who was not a libertarian but brought way more attention than any of us would bring came to our convention with all of the media and someone showed up and upset him. That would be an incredible thing for national and international media to cover, and tens of millions of people to wonder how that just happened and who this surprise nominee was and how that why libertarians would pick this person instead of RFK Jr.
Why didn't you run, Spike? I mean, you're so damn likable, right? So cute, right? You get all the people. You know, you don't
Cuteness
piss
does
people
matter,
off.
yeah.
Right, you don't piss people off for the most part, right? I would say you're fairly uncontroversial to a large part of the libertarian movement. But I mean, you have your moments like anybody else. But I mean, why didn't you run, Spike? It seemed obvious. You were the VP slot in the last campaign. It seemed like it would have been a layup. Why not run?
Well, I have never actually said I'm not running. What I'm doing right now is uncovering child trafficking operations across the country, and I'm fighting for people that are losing their homes and their businesses because of out of control local governments. And in doing so, I'm growing the liberty movement. I've found a very useful purpose with what we're doing with You Are the Power. With that said, you never know what's going to happen in the future. And I'm not actively seeking anything, but I will say this: if it comes down to an upset or the party ceasing to exist, then that will be a very tough choice that I will have to make. But I will say that.
Very careful parsing of words from Spike Cohen. You are the power.net. Spike, is there anything that we missed that you'd like to share with us before we let you go, or any last minute plugs?
If you want to check out the gun debate, spikecohen.com/gun debate. That's got the live stream info. And well, again, you can't register anymore. It's sold out, but it will have the live stream there once it's available. And it's on April 10th. So be sure to check that. April 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you want to help us fight to get families reunited and to get the criminal or the Child Protection Service in Georgia reformed in a serious way and help end a nightmare for thousands of Georgians, go to youarethepower.net/GA. And as always, thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, Spike, thanks so much for being generous with your time and joining us live this morning, and good luck in the debate. We know that you're going to do well. We'll be watching that live stream, and we'll check that out at your website, and keep up the good work. Thanks for calling them out, Spike. We appreciate you very much, and take care.
Absolutely. Thank you, man.
We are live again. Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Those replays are very useful, very helpful for me whenever things are going wrong behind the scenes. I know usually we have Thirsty Thursdays, which means we get smoking hot Camellia Peterson and the uber attractive Daniela Pensack, but then Daniela had to back out at the last minute because she had some travel, and so we were just a little thirsty today. And so what do? I'm like, oh my God, I have 2 minutes until the show starts. Cut the Spike Cohen clip and do the replay. They'll enjoy it. They'll like it. And they did. Yay. Now, Austin, what are you going to do for the rest of the show? Well, it's a good thing that John Stossel put out an awesome video yesterday talking about squatters in his home. What do you guys think about squatters? I just love the show. I'm always having so much fun in the morning with you guys. I hope that you are too. And if you haven't clicked that like button yet, what are you doing? If you haven't reposted the live stream over at x.com, what are you doing? And if you haven't clicked follow on that follow button yet, if you're at rumble.com, what are you doing? First of all,
How dare you?
and second of all, enjoy John
In 6
Stossel.
months, you haven't paid rent. It's my house.
In 6 months, you haven't paid rent. This is my house.
It is his house, but the man inside who won't pay rent keeps him from using it. Like,
it is not a crazy rich Asian. Well, maybe the landlord
why is the
is.
owner of this house left town for 3 weeks, only to return and find...
There were cars in the driveway and people inside.
When he confronted them, they said,
"No, we're living here. We have a lease."
The squatters didn't have a lease, but today, squatters...
Pause. I have to respond. I'm sorry to change the subject very briefly, but I just feel the need to respond to Liz. She's always getting under my skin. She says, those ladies have brains, AP. Stop pimping women out. Let me tell you something. That the supposition is, if they appear on the Wake Up America show, they have a brain. We don't put brainless people on the Wake Up America show. This is a big brain show, Liz. So it's assumed that they have brains. The fact that the ladies who typically end up on the show also happen to be beautiful is just a bonus, right? And I know it goes without pointing out. It should go without pointing out, but I just like to point it out anyway because it's funny. Yeah, they're all brilliant, and that's why they end up on the Wake Up America show. Let's continue.
Often claim they do. Go to a house and take it over. Bizarrely, laws favor the squatter.
In New York State, you cannot legally lock a squatter out of your home or turn off utilities. And once a squatter is there for 30 days, they are classified as a tenant.
Is there anything a homeowner can do about it? Well, Flash Shelton came up with a clever idea.
This man is on a mission to take back his parents' house after he says squatters moved in.
I just felt like, if they can take a house, I can take a house.
This was his mom's house.
There you go.
She left it briefly after his dad passed away. When squatters took over the house, Shelton did what I would have done.
I called law enforcement, and there was nothing they could do.
Why can't the cops evict somebody?
Because the crazy laws don't allow them to.
So Shelton came up with this bizarre solution.
I realized I could go in as the squatter myself, gain possession of the property.
Because the law so favors squatters, he became a squatter. When the home invaders left for a few hours, Shelton slipped into the house and changed the locks.
I had them locked out before they even knew that somebody wanted them out.
The squatter comes back, finds the door locked, screams, says, I have a right to be there, and you just don't let him in?
I don't let him in.
After that worked, Shelton started SquatterHunters.com, a business that tries to help others get their houses back. In Los Angeles, he confronted the man who took over this house.
He answered an ad to rent a room. And before he was accepted to rent the room, he walked in with a backpack and he refused to leave. I decide to go do a squatter intervention, and I show up with cameras and surprise him in the driveway. I understand you've been squatting at this residence?
No.
No?
No, I have a lease.
You have a lease?
No.
You have a lease.
But he soon admitted.
And you have a lease?
No, she didn't want to give me a lease.
This squatter is Adam Fleischman. He was rich once.
My good friend Adam Fleischman, Umami. How are you, Adam?
Here he is being interviewed about starting the Umami Burger restaurant chain. This was a successful guy who started restaurants.
What?
Yeah, I've seen video clips of him on TV. He was kind of a little famous on his own. So it made no sense.
We tried to reach Fleischman without success.
What are you hoping to gain here?
I'm not trying to get anything. I'm a victim here.
Oh, the victim here. The squatter is the victim, man, and society is just trying to get us down. See, if you're renting a house right now and you have a landlord, or you're renting if you're renting an apartment, then you should consider, when you pay your rent this month, here in a couple days, you should tip your landlords. They do so much for us. We should give a little bit back to them. So if you've got a landlord, give him a tip this year. Man, extra $100.
A victim.
The video shows him just so entitled, and it just really couldn't make any sense out of what he was saying.
The city still protects tenants whether they get a lease or not. You didn't know that?
I'm laughing because
the city
it's
regulations.
It's so arrogant.
Just the words and the arrogance.
The squatter even called the police. This wasn't his house. He has no legal right to be there.
So he felt that since he had possession of the house, which is true, that he had the right to call law enforcement and have me removed.
And where does he hear this, that he has this right to squat?
The city was telling him this.
The LA City Council approved a package of new policies Friday aimed at protecting tenants.
City politicians are so eager to favor tenants, they protect squatters. But now Shelton was a squatter too, one who threatened to bring his friends.
We'll be here to help you leave.
More the merrier.
Only then did Adam Fleischman get a mover and leave. People think of these people as homeless.
SquatterHunters.com. This is new. This is a great business. Brilliant. See, this is the market. The people say that the free market doesn't work. The free market works. When government does something stupid, sometimes they create market opportunities. This shouldn't have to exist, But we call this perverse incentives.
Destitute.
They are not homeless people. They're criminals. They're people that are taking advantage of the system.
And you're harassing me.
I have a
You're
lease.
harassing me.
I have a lease.
It's always the women who are the worst, right? The guys are going to sit down, have a beer with you and just say, yeah, man, you know, I'm a piece of shit. But the women are going to be like, oh, your face.
Property.
This woman claimed to be a caretaker for the elderly owner of this house, but the owner wanted the woman out. She gave Shelton a lease.
I have a lease for this property.
I don't give a the guy. You haven't introduced yourself to me. I don't even know what the you look like.
I've left
You ain't gonna be
notices.
sneaking up on me in the middle of the night.
Notices.
You ain't gonna be sneaking up on me in the middle of the night. You
One day when she was out, Shelton went into the house and changed the locks. But the squatter is still there?
Still there, climbing through the window because she doesn't have access to the main house.
So she's still there for how many months?
She's been there for 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, somebody is going to die.
Now
over this.
someone started to go.
Yeah, eventually somebody's going to get shot. I hope he defends himself, but he lives in California, so self-defense is illegal.
GoFundMe page to help the elderly homeowner. Once she finds a new residence, then you and maybe your 6 friends will move in. And that works?
That will work.
How do you know?
Because she'll have to leave, and once I take possession, then she'll have to fight in court to try to get back in. And most
This guy is a hero, a superhero.
likely, she won't do that.
You ever worry about the squatter attacking you?
Well, I don't go in anymore by myself.
You're trespassing. And you're harassing me.
How do the squatters manage to think of themselves as victims?
Landlords are social parasites.
There it is. Landlords are social parasites. That's what it is. See, this is why I'm telling you this month, ladies and gentlemen, if you are a renter, you will tip your landlords an extra 10% on top of what you're paying for rent this
They
month.
provide no social value.
Maybe squatters listen to people like this new school professor, a self-described Marxist who calls landlords parasites.
Send him to Venezuela. Deport, deport, deport. Boo.
They are so focused on extracting money that they perceive people's basic need for a shelter as an opportunity to generate substantial profits.
They can make a profit without having to do very much, if any, work.
This socialist on TikTok has more than 1 million followers. She says landlords
Are granted and guaranteed forever incomes without actually having to put in any labor.
They don't.
You don't put in any labor. Landlords don't put in any labor. See, this is that labor theory of value. She looks like the Down syndrome, Downy version of that chick from Breaking Bad who had the heroin overdose. So it was Jesse's girlfriend in there, and she was like choking to death on her own vomit. That's how these people always end. Look at she's pincushioned herself. She's got the what do they call them? The pin. What is this? A pin cushion? Is that a safety pin in her ear?
Oh, put in labor?
This house is sold.
Who do they think buys the land? Pays lawyers to decipher the excessive regulations, hires architects, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, pays the taxes, and manages the property.
They should make an income because they're actually helping.
But city politicians now win elections trashing landlords. And laws are so anti-landlord that homeowners sometimes get arrested if they change locks to get a squatter out.
Arrested for unlawful eviction.
This woman had come into the house she owned and confronted squatters.
You shouldn't be trying to steal my house. Yes, you are.
She locked the squatter out, but he broke back in.
You broke through the front door.
The squatter then called the
I mean, if you lived in Missouri, like you could get shot doing
police.
something like that.
And the police told the owner to leave.
So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't have to leave?
Because technically he can't be kicked out. We need to go to court.
Then she got arrested because this squatter knew the magic words to say to police. I have a lease. But when this reporter said,
I would like to see it.
He didn't show him a lease.
This is a bill.
Law enforcement can't even ask for the lease because they're not allowed to decipher if it's a real lease or not.
You should know how the law works.
I do know how it works.
There's rules to the as you got to go to court and send me to civil court.
Some homeowners just throw up their hands, give up.
Homeowners can't afford this. So at some point, they're making the decision if it's worth it to even fight or just walk away from their homes. And then the squatter wins.
It is infuriating. I'm glad people like Flash Shelton fight back.
I let's see John Stossel, and it just reminds me of the good old days. And John and I have a good relationship, and we worked at the same time we were working at Fox Business, not together on the same show. He had his own show, but had a good relationship with him, and I would say we were not friends but acquaintances. And it just reminds me of the exciting life that I've led, because John Stossel was always such a huge hero to me. Even when I was a kid, I loved his Give Me a Break segments on 2020. And then I grew up and I managed to work my way from, the farm in Peculiar, Missouri to Fox Business Network, working alongside my heroes. I love too that I have this show so I can share with you all of my experiences, because Fox wouldn't give me a show, and none of these other news networks are going to give me a show. So I had a little radio show for a while, but I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to have my own show, and I'm going to be the show so I can talk about whatever the hell I want. And now it's going great. And now I get to do like my own kind of John Stossel stuff. I get to be the next John Stossel, perhaps, thanks to people like you. Right here on the Wake Up America show, people like yourself are making the alternative media the mainstream media. We'll make it no longer a bad word, because the Wake Up America show will be what the mainstream media was supposed to be. Well, thank you very much for supporting us this morning. Thank you so much for your follows. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your hearts. And of course, thanks for being a subscriber to the show if you are. I see Urs Mommy over there in the chat. She's got that little red castle next to her name. That means that on a monthly basis, Urs Mommy makes sure that you get to hear from me by being a monthly paid supporter to the show. If you're a monthly paid supporter to the show, you get a 20% discount at ap4libertyshop.com. I mean, you could buy the Afuera sneakers today, get a 20% discount, and save more money than you pay to become a monthly subscriber. And in theory, you could just cancel the subscription next month. Now, that wouldn't be very nice, but if, for example, you wanted to get the Javier Milei Afuera sneakers at the shop, become a $5 a month sponsor through Rumble, or go to wakeupamerica.show.com/support, and you get that 20% discount code that you can save money whenever you buy things at the shop. So head over to wakeupamerica.show.com/support, become a monthly sponsor. If you become a member of the Peterson's Patriots crew, and that is a $17.76 a month commitment to helping us grow this Liberty Network, then you also get on the Peterson family Christmas card list. You get gifts in the mail from us, handwritten cards. You get the special Peterson treatment. And for those who are members at that level, Stephanie and I, we treat you guys like family. And if you're a part of our family and you're supporting us financially, we are going to take care of you as well. So please do become a monthly supporter to the show. You get discounts, you get prizes, you get put on the family Christmas card list, and you get to hear things before other people do as well. So thank you so much to all of our monthly supporters who are doing so already to help keep the future of Liberty Media alive. Aren't you guys sick of Fox and Daily Wire and all these things? Don't you want a Liberty Network? Make it happen today by becoming a monthly supporter. We'll see you guys here tomorrow, Freedom Family Friday, on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamerica.show.com.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs.
Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP4Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's revolutionary roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's patriotic perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at ap4libertyshop.com.